watching Monday edition of News Mongolia. Today is January 31st. For our top stories, respiratory illnesses are peaking while the number of available hospital beds declines. Mining exports resume. Mongolia and China's ministers of foreign affairs spoke about the Prime Minister's upcoming visit to Beijing. For other news, stay tuned. The Ministry of Health and the National Center for Communicable Diseases provided its daily updates on COVID-19 status in Mongolia. Details as follows.
The Minister of Health today reported that 1,206 new COVID-19 cases were detected after tests were carried out at PCR laboratories across the country. 2 people, all with underlying health conditions, died of COVID-19 complications in the past 24 hours. All new cases are of domestic transmission, 648 out of which were confirmed in ULAN-UDE, and the remaining 558 were confirmed in the provinces. 10,348 COVID-19 patients are being treated at hospitals nationwide. Additionally, 54,017 patients are being treated at home. Among the COVID-19 patients being treated at hospitals nationwide, 2,943 are showing mild symptoms of illness and 91 are in critical condition. As of now, around 2.17 million people have had 2 doses of COVID-19 vaccine and 31% of the population has received a booster shot so far. The anticipated COVID-19 peak is to be reached around Lunar New Year. Hence, officials warned the public against the risk of getting exposed to the virus, and it is advising people not to celebrate the holiday widely.
The prevalence of respiratory illnesses has been increasing while cases of the Omicron variant of COVID-19 remain high in Mongolia. People have difficulty distinguishing between cases of the flu and the Omicron variant, but doctors warn that people shouldn't just hope for the best.
Nationwide, more than 8,000 people are hospitalized, with about 2,400 patients exhibiting respiratory complications. About 50% of patients are children, and about 700 children are being treated in intensive care units.
There are 4 or 5 types of influenza and influenza-like illnesses in our country. Viruses that cause problems in young children have also been reported. However, the risk of an outbreak of influenza associated with the simultaneous outbreak of the Omicron variant may be high.
There are more than 1,400 hospital beds in the country, but if the number of respiratory illnesses continues to grow, there is a risk of bed shortages. Doctors say the main reason for the high hospitalization rate is the inability to differentiate between COVID-19 infections and flu symptoms.
There is no good distinction between them. I think Omicron causes a fever, and of course, the Omicron variant is more critical than a flu-like illness for any person.
In fact, they are very similar. COVID-19 is more likely to be caught if you have a runny nose. You need to take a rapid test.
I've heard they are very close. COVID-19 is often thought to start with pneumonia. Mild to severe illness is mainly due to a person's compromised immune system.
Last week, around 190,000 people were treated at the NCCD's outpatient clinics, and around 22,000 had flu-like symptoms. The Omicron variant and influenza-like illnesses exhibit similar symptoms. Therefore, in the case of any respiratory symptoms arising, doctors recommend that people seek professional medical advice.
Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Officials report that mining export has been gradually increasing following the pandemic-related hiatus. Due to pandemic measures, mining exports were halted at Mongolian-Chinese border checkpoints. With new protocols in place, mining export has resumed through railway transport. Starting on January 27th, mining export resumed by railway. If the pandemic restrictions are eased, the current 10 trains for mining export can be increased to 14 trains. There are 4 checkpoints that border China, all operating under special protocols. At the Hang and Mandal border checkpoints, around 50 trucks carrying coal and iron ore are being processed every day.
Export is being done through 4 Chinese border checkpoints and 3 Russian border checkpoints.
Copper concentrate and coal are being exported at the Gashon-Sukhat border checkpoint. Transport costs from ULAN-UDE to ULANBAATAR are currently 2.5 to 3 million Mongolian tugruk. Thank you for staying with us on MNB World. Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
On January 28th, Minister of Foreign Affairs Batsitsik had a telephone call with her Chinese counterpart, Minister of Foreign Affairs Wang Yi, on the upcoming working visit of Prime Minister of Mongolia Uyghur's visit to the Republic of China and preparations for attending the opening ceremony of the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics. The foreign ministers stressed the importance of achieving mutual understanding at the highest levels of government on the coherence of key objectives set out in Mongolia's Vision 2050 long-term development policy and New Revival policy, and China's 14th Five-Year Plan, Belt and Road Initiative, and Global Development Initiative. They also noted that the government organizations are actively cooperating to effectively organize the Mongolian Prime Minister's visit and to make progress in bilateral relations. Minister Wang highlighted that Prime Minister Uyghur was one of the first foreign leaders to confirm their participation in the opening ceremony of the Winter Olympic Games and stated that the Chinese government applauds his attendance of the opening ceremony. The Parliament of Mongolia held an irregular session to discuss amendments to the 2022 state budget. Speaker of Parliament Sandashtar highlighted that the government of Mongolia has been pursuing a policy to protect public health and support businesses during the last 2 years of the pandemic. He also noted that Mongolia's economy revived in 2021, with export reaching $9.2 billion and the foreign trade balance surplus reaching $2.4 billion. Despite these positive indicators, one of the problems facing the world is the increase in commodity prices. Therefore, in accordance with the President's directions, Cabinet made a decision to submit amendments to the law on the 2022 state budget to increase the pensions. Following directions given by President Khurelsukh, Cabinet's proposed amendments would raise the minimum pension to 500,000 Mongolian tugrux. For pensioners who already have a pension of 500,000 tugrux or more, their pension will be raised by 15%. A total of 637 billion Mongolian tugrux is required to finance the pension increase, which could be secured by cutting some expenditures in the 2022 state budget. Prime Minister Uyghur noted that the amendments also include measures to stabilize prices for consumer goods. A test ride for the 416.1-kilometer railroad from Tawantolqa to Zumbaing is scheduled for March 15th of this year, as announced by the CEO of Mongolian Railway Joint Stock Company Batnasang during the Minister of Road and Transportation Halter's meeting with officials of the state-owned company. The minister was briefed on the operations of Mongolian Railway GSC, Tawantolqa Railway LLC, and Zumbaing Railway LLC, as well as the current status of projects being implemented. He tasked the companies with ensuring that preparations are complete for the launch of railway transport on the Tawantolqa-Zumbaing Railroad. Noting that the ministry's technical commission assessed the railroad's construction as good quality, he highlighted the importance of commissioning the railroad on schedule. During the meeting, CEO of Tawantolqa Railway LLC, Watanjargal, introduced the progress of company projects being implemented. Currently, the company is in charge of completing the 233.6-kilometer Tawantolqa-Gashon-Sukhat Railroad, a 22-kilometers railroad connecting the Tawantolqa-Gashon-Sukhat and Tawantolqa-Zumbaing Railroads, and the Bogatang Railroad. Highlighting the construction of the Tawantolqa-Gashon-Sukhat Railroad must be completed by July 1st, Minister Halter tasked company officials with completing the feasibility study for establishing a terminal at the Gashon-Sukhat border checkpoint in the first quarter of the year, and to fully ensure preparations for the Gashon-Sukhat-Kantsmot Railroad and launch construction by May 1st.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast for the world's major cities. You have watched the Monday's edition of News Mongolia. Thanks for staying with us. We'll see you again with more news updates. Stay tuned.